Hey again, and welcome back to the Israel Mobile Summit. We just had a nice topic about what to expect about app monetization in future, but let's not stop on that, but continue and explore what has evolved for the past year in the app monetization models. So for our main monetization panel for our summit, we have Meta and 4 publishers to join the panel. One of them is Ilyon Games. It's an Israel company who was acquired by MiniClip last year. And Roie, their VP and marketing and monetization, will moderate this panel. And Roie will be joined by 4 companies. Orly, you just heard from Meta, Felix, marketing director from InnoGames, Nate, director of business development from Kolibri Games, and Roie, head of monetization at JoyTunes. Hello, hi everyone.
Everyone. Very nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. And I'm actually so happy to see many familiar faces around here. glad to see you all, guys. I hope you had a nice year, and we're eager to hear all about what's changed in monetization. And as we have not so much time, and we also want to have some questions, I'll just pass it over to you, and let's hear you out.
Great. So hi, everyone. I'm Roie from Ilyon, as I was introduced, and welcome to the Evolution of Monetization Strategies panel. As you know, monetization is one of the most interesting and sought topics in the world, and every game and vertical has its own secret sauce. So today we're going to explore it a little further with very interesting guests. Each one is a star by himself, I would say. And let's start with Nate from Kolibri. Tell us a little about yourself and the company and what you're doing.
Hey everybody, it's nice to be here. I wish I was literally there because the weather here in Berlin is pretty awful where we are headquartered, and it looks a lot nicer where you are. I'm the director of business development at Kolibri Games. Kolibri Games is based in Berlin. We are an idle game developer. Our largest game is Idle Miner Tycoon, and we also have Idle Firefighter Tycoon, Idle Restaurant Tycoon, and a number of other idle games that follow the same naming schema. Our objective is to be the #1 player-driven idle games developer in the world. Last year, we were acquired by Ubisoft, so we're happy to join that family and continue making great games. In my role at Calibri, I work on ad monetization as well as assorted other business development topics with platform relations, procurement, etc. Nice to be here, everybody.
Very nice meeting you. Let's go to Felix. Felix, tell us a little about yourself and about InnoGames.
Yeah, hi everyone. Also happy to be on this panel. I'm Felix. I'm from InnoGames. I'm marketing director, overseeing all UA activities at InnoGames. We are based in Germany and Hamburg, so totally agree to what Nature said. But the background already warming up myself, so feels good to have this background and not the cold weather outside. Yes, InnoGames. We are a company coming from the browser side, developing mobile games in 6 years now. Our strongest game is Forge of Empires, but we also have Elvenar, and we're launching some more mobile games at the moment. And there I can bring some interesting insights in this panel.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's go to Orly. That doesn't need any introduction, but let's do it anyway.
Thank you, Roie. So I'm Orly, Regional Manager of Central East Europe here at Meta. And yeah, you've heard all about me in the previous session.
Great. And last but not least, Roie from JoyTunes. Tell us a little about yourself and the company.
Yeah, hello everyone, good morning. My name is Roie Shiloah. I'm the head of monetization in JoyTunes. For those who don't know us here, so JoyTunes is a B2C Israeli startup with one inspirational and straightforward mission, which is to bring music learning to every household all around the world. We have 2 applications, one for learning piano and one for guitar. But soon I promise more applications and instruments will join our family and allow everyone all around the world to fulfill their musical dream. In terms of growth, we have experienced a phenomenal growth over the last few years. Today, JoyTunes, by the way, considered to be the leading music education platform with millions of learners all around the world. but I can promise you that we are just in the beginning. We are trying to build something huge here, and not ashamed to say that same as Netflix has done for TV and Spotify for music, JoyTunes' vision is to become the standard for learning music all around the world. We are based now here in Tel Aviv, 150 employees, and for whose it's relevant for them, we continue hiring professional growth specialists.
Awesome, very impressive. Plus, you've done a recruiting pitch. Great job. So let's start with a basic question. I think the most basic question. Let's talk about monetization. Which monetization strategy are you using right now? And let's start with Nate.
Sure. So at Kolibri, for all of our idle games, and so we're I guess in our case specifically, we have one type of game, and it's an idle game. And these are idle games that are mostly focused around a bottleneck mechanic. So they're usually simulation. All of our idle games are simulation, business simulation games for the most part. Run a factory, run a restaurant, run a post office or something like this. And they all have a bottleneck mechanic within them. So, people lining up to go to the counter, that's a bottleneck. Goods getting transported from point A to point B so you can sell them, that's another bottleneck. So because of this, we found it was really easy to focus on rewarded video as a primary means of monetization. Rewarded video works really well as a binary on off, get the reward or you don't have the reward activated. So I would say 99% of our ad revenue comes from rewarded video. We do a little experimentation with interstitials, but not as much. And the remainder, the other 50%, almost precisely, of our revenue is derived from in-app purchases. We don't currently really use subscriptions or any other, offer walls or things like that. It's just those two.
Okay, very interesting. So you're using the hybrid monetization model, which is one of the most popular.
Precisely.
Great. Felix, tell us a little about the monetization in your company.
Yeah, sure. And to be honest, happy to answer this question these days, because if you would have asked the past Felix half year ago, I would have to answer 100% in-app purchase. And now I'm happy to answer 95% in-app purchase, but we're starting with in-app ads. And so talk a bit about in-app purchase. I think we built up a huge exercise here. And for us also, what is important, it's not so much about selling premium items, it's about, we say, time saving. So if you pay, you can play quicker. You can truly play our games for free, but it will just take a bit longer. I think Forge has a playtime of more than 3 years to play end of content. So yeah, if you pay something, you have to play less than 3 years. So this is how we introduce in-app purchase in the games. And now, as I said, for the new games, we also launch in-app ads as we develop, we see the development of the market, we look into it, we test it a lot, and happy to see that we now have success with it. 100% rewarded video ads also in our games.
Okay, great. So this is very interesting. Like many mid-core publishers that used to not use any ads, this is the new trend. A lot of mid-core and even hardcore gamings are moving over and using monetization. This question will go to Orly. Is this a trend you're seeing also in the macro level, Orly?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's what we've been preaching for literally the past 2 years. It's been the main focus of our work here at Audience Network, educating publishers and mainly going to casual, to mid-core, to heavy publishers, and pitching them a mixed monetization solution, not to derive from the revenues that they get from in-app purchase, but actually to enhance additional revenue stream, work with data, create cohorts of users, keep your whales, but also make money from new stream of users that you wouldn't monetize anywhere else, and reducing churn from users that don't pay inside the app, increasing lifetime value of users that will utilize both reward, but might also pay inside the game. So yeah, it's been a work in progress, but I'm so happy to see that almost all of the gaming companies in the world are utilizing mixed monetization solution.
Amazing, yes. Ads, when you use them properly, it's a win-win solution. and we will discuss it a little later. And now we have someone a little different. Roie, tell us a little how you do it in your apps.
So for JoyTunes, in terms of monetization, the business model is quite straightforward, purely focused on subscription, driven from the two applications that I mentioned, Simply Piano and Simply Guitar. We have, by the way, two platforms, iOS and Android. When the learner today download the application, he is getting some free content, can explore the application to understand if this is what he really looked for. In order to continue playing and learning music, he needs to cross kind of a paywall with 3 subscription models and prices. Today, by the way, the most popular one in JoyTunes is the yearly one, which we are promoting with 7 days of free trial. And with getting this subscription, it's allowing the learner to enjoy the whole content experience of the app, unlimited access to all courses and songs library. And same as all content, subscription company, we are allowing the learner to cancel his subscription whenever he wants, while on the same time, if at the end of the period he doesn't do that, the subscription is being auto-renewed.
Okay, very interesting and very different from games, and we will also discuss this later. Let's talk about the decision making. How do you decide which monetization strategy to go? Let's start with Felix, because you just did a major shift in your company.
Yeah, true. As you said, I already started to talk about this a little bit. For sure, we observe the market. We observe market trends, looking at competitors, looking what they're doing, how they're doing it. And if you compare, for example, top 10 games last 2 years, you see a major shift. For 2 years ago, mainly dominated by in-app purchases. Now, I think all of them also have ads in the game. So the hybrid model, as you mentioned, most popular. So this is one thing. And the other thing that we do, we have a business case for sure, for every game, for every new game, but also for the existing games. We have a case for every feature we are developing. So we're looking, okay, what is the impact on the LTV, or what is the impact on the retention? So to develop a feature and to prioritize features, we need a case for it. And for the new games, we also set up a case for in-game ads and say, okay, what could be the impact for the new games? And we developed it, and yeah, we were surprised how especially the ads have beaten the case and the cases. So really strong impact we've seen. And so we said, okay, let's develop the feature. And so it's really based on single cases per feature, which need to be proven, and otherwise you cannot really develop a game and move forward. And this is how we decide, let's say, case by case. And now we have the positive case for ads in the game, and this now brings us in the solution, in the situation that we also start to roll out this for other games, case by case again.
Okay, very insightful. I would say that generally speaking, tips for publishers out there is going incremental. You should add the monetization and always measure the revenue added and compare it to the user metrics. Are they going down? And even if they go down, maybe the added value of the revenue is higher than the decrease of the user retention, etc. Great answer. Nate, tell us a little about how you do things in your company.
Yeah, I mean, as I was mentioning earlier, a great deal of our monetization strategy is dictated by our game design. So because we have, this really specific design, we can kind of, reuse this thinking for our strategy. And the real thing that it kind of comes down to is ensuring that we're not, we want to be the -- player-driven game company in the world, right? So we want to make sure that we're not impacting negatively the player experience. Or at least not to the point where it's, ruining our other metrics and lowering our LTV and making the games unsustainable. We want to make sure that anytime we're doing something within our games, it's manipulating one of two variables. The variables are always money and time. So either we're speeding up how quickly one can build something, or we're increasing the length of a reward, or we're increasing the payout of reward, or decreasing the cost. So it just kind of works on those two axes when it comes to that. And in terms of the other side of things, monetization. We actually didn't have monetization when we first built the game. And it wasn't until players complained that there wasn't a way to spend money to speed up their progress, we actually implemented that. So we started with rewarded video. So a lot of what we're doing is also driven by player feedback when it comes to it in our idle games.
Okay, so it's very structured, which is great. And we will also discuss this later. When you know how to structure things and you know how to measure things, you can feel free with the monetization. And let's talk a little with Roie. Tell us a little about how you do it in your company in JoyTunes.
So generally speaking, for app developers, it's no doubt that subscription is, of course, a great opportunity, mainly a financial one, allowing building, business based on recurring revenue plus, a long-term relationship with the customer. So from our perspective, when deciding on the company monetization strategy, it was quite obvious that subscription should be the business model that we choose. But together with that, when deciding on this business model, there are a few questions, mainly around the product, which we have asked ourselves in order to determine whether this strategy really suits the offering. So the first one was, of course, around the product value itself. If we are talking on the world of JoyTunes, the basis for music learning journey really fits the subscription world. You are being able to commit to a long-term relationship with the application, together with getting access to endless up-to-date content which allow you to learn playing. While the second is around, the company itself, the team investment. I'm always like to compare, the musical journey to like a gym. You're starting with a passion, you have an amazing motivation, and then it's slowly becoming more challenging and complicated, which of course increase the chances that you will, as a customer, will churn at the end. Here, as we are as a developer, need to make sure that we are providing you enough value, enough encouragement and reasoning to cross this journey and not to churn at the end. When we are talking here on subscription, we must understand that this model requires from the developer a significant investment in content in order to keep the user happy, satisfied with the price they have just paid and the value that they are getting. So at the bottom line, this is what will keep them engaged with the product, and at the end renew the subscription. And just to end with that, just to emphasize this statement for you in numbers, today more than 40% of JoyTunes team and efforts are invested in the product retention side in order to create content and adding more and more value to the customer in order to make him retain at the end.
Okay, very interesting. So this success leads us to the next question. Why didn't subscriptions scale so well in games? Let's discuss this a little. Felix, what do you think?
Yeah, I think first, just to mention, like I said, we were focusing here now on games because there are examples where it's working pretty well. You just heard one. But for games, there are several reasons, but two reasons I want to point out is one is just like when we talk about, to be honest, free to play and subscription, I think already doesn't really fit together, because when you really want to play for free, and as I said, in our games, you can fully play the game to the end for free. If you have to play extra for some content, it's honestly not free to play the whole game. So the whole game experience would be different for the non-payers. And the second point is also, and we did also some tests with some of the games. Yes, you might see an increase in rec to pay for subscription, but in the average revenue per paying player, it's way lower compared to in-app purchases, because subscription, you pay a certain price and then you get the content. And with in-app purchases, games are also based on VIP, so which pay more, they can pay as much as they want, let's phrase it this way. And if they want pay more than €5 for the subscription, they can, and they're not say, okay, I paid €5 for the content, that's fine for me. No, so we offer them to pay more to get a different game experience, or as I said, to save time, and so whatever they want. So I think this is from my point of view, are the main reasons why it's not successful in gaming.
Okay, interesting insight. Nate, do you anything to add on top of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are different challenges, and it really varies according to the type of game you have. With our games, as with a ton of other mobile games, yeah, they're free to play, but ours is like mostly a single player experience. We do have global competitions and some light social features, but we're not a PvP game. So in order to accommodate that and make the subscriptions have value, you need to offer something. So if we're not offering, some sort of bonus so you can beat your friends or help your clan, then it goes back to what Roie said in the beginning, which is that you need content. And right now, the amount of content that game developers would need to, or at least in our case, to create in order to sustain a subscription doesn't really make sense. We'd rather offer most of our content to all of our players. So that means that we'd have to focus on offering some sort of like soft currency or something else that's minimal, that probably wouldn't move the needle for most of our players. The other added problem, I think, is maybe a bit on the technical and analytics side. I think a lot of game developers face challenges when it just comes to like interpreting the analytics of a subscription. As opposed to a single purchase, which can be verified in your back end. With subscriptions, the subscriptions could be canceled, and then you have to deal with that problem. You have to deal with how to interpret the recurring revenue, which is like really boring stuff, but also can make it enough of a headache that if your finance people are like, well, we don't want to deal with that, you're like, we'll figure out something else to do. So I think those are all some of the reasons, and the other guys definitely added the other pertinent ones.
Okay, great answers from both, and definitely we start to understand why is that. Orly, can you add anything from the macro level, something you see in Meta?
Sure. So we don't have the example here in the panel, but we cannot forget that many of the gaming companies are actually hyper casual companies, and their game is usually being played for a week, 2 weeks, 30 days. Some are really good, and several months, but this is not sustainable to have a subscription for them, because users usually churn before the first months, and so not really the right model for them.
Okay, that's another interesting insight. Let's talk go a little more in depth and discuss the process of adding monetization layers to the game. Nate, would you like to start with that?
Yeah, sure. So with our games, we usually start off with a very, very simple ad integration. We have, this process, this orderly process, as you pointed out, as we're rolling out the new games. So it always starts out with just simply testing whether or not rewarded video works. So we're looking at that point primarily at engagement rate, and that's the defining metric. We don't really care about eCPMs then. We don't really care about how many ads people are watching per day, just to make sure that people feel motivated to watch the ads. And then as we progress through the launch stages, from soft launch to a global launch to scaling, we're looking to add, after that stage, multiple points in order to add in rewarded video. Then, generally IAPs that are, soft currency, maybe hard currency IAPs. And then once the games reach maturity, we add in specialty purchases specifically. So those are things like no ads offers, which we've experimented with, which actually do all right. So that is a purchase that enables players to receive the rewards they would get from watching ads without actually having to watch the ads. Not a hugely popular, but a good source of revenue. We also add in, faux subscriptions. So we mentioned we don't have real subscriptions, but we do have some that look and feel a bit like subscriptions. So that doles out rewards progressively over the period of a month. And we also work on, other, one-off purchases, things like the ability to get unique ad rewards from various locations as the games get more and more specialized.
Okay, so generally speaking, it's all in the data. You can be aggressive, but always monitor the user metrics. It's very important. Felix, anything to add?
Yeah, I think just a small thing to add, as I said, we're at the very beginning and started testing, but I think perhaps this is interesting because it usually it's based on an in-app purchases our game. So in the core loop in the game, and then we add now the ads or put the ads in the game. And there we really start also with just a few in the soft launch. I think we started with 4 views a day, or max views a day for our players, which is compared to other games, I think quite low. But we just want to see, okay, how they experience it. How high is the view rate here, and also how the CPMs are developing. And then from this point on, like we said, we are testing and we have to watch the data. And I think one interesting point, as I'm overseeing also UA activities, is the impact on the UA activities on our side. Because with adding ads in the game, yeah, it started a total new business for us on the buying side, because I think it's a different target group, it's different CPIs, and so on and so forth. So also this is interesting for us to see, okay, looking at the monetization, looking at the UA side to also see, okay, to find the right target group, really develop the game monetization strategies based on the target group, and also work together with the UA side, because at the end, yeah, we want to grow the business, we want to grow the games, and this is how we work then.
Okay, Orly, anything to add from your perspective?
Sure. So I'll be a little bit futuristic here. And even though in the past year, 2 years, most of the publishers have really utilized data, have done A/B testing, iterated on different entry points, the different rewards that they're getting. For next year, I really hope that many of the publishers will start utilizing machine learning and be kind of more agile with which placement they're offering at what time. It might be a reward that they're offering because this is what the machine predicts that the user is more likely to click on, but it might be a redirection to in-app purchase because the user is at the stage where he really needs something in order to progress in the game and he's more likely to pay for it. So utilizing machine learning will probably be the next phase of game iteration in the next 2 years.
Okay, great. And as you said, futuristic. So let's be futuristic and hop into 2022. And let's discuss how can publishers expect the ad experience to change. Let's start with Nate. Anything you can imagine what will happen? It's not that long, not that far, but still.
Yeah, I think the 2 big things that are making a ton of noise right now are audio ads. So there's some audio specific ad monetization that is, I think a few of these companies just got a bunch of funding. So we'll probably see a little bit of experimentation there. And then the native ads, so ads integrated into the gameplay of the ad itself. The typical example is like a billboard somewhere that like is displaying some ad. This is the former actually is relatively new. The latter, the native ads, like have been experimented with for a while. I think it really depends on the games themselves. To some degree, I think this is going to be driven by the fact that with advancing technology, you'll see that we can get more 3D games, more high fidelity games. So that type of ad experience might actually make more sense rather than like say our games where they're essentially 2D. So, a billboard just looks like a banner ad. But I think those would probably be the 2 big ones on the tech side.
Okay, so you're saying more ads. This is
More
the future,
ads.
and everybody's looking to add more ads as long as it's relevant.
Yeah.
Totally agreed. I would focus on 2 things: real-time bidding. I think that next year it's going to be almost close to 100%, no doubt. And I would even say it's going to be a custom experience for ads. I think that publishers will know better when, where, and which type of ads to display to the users. Everything is going to be a lot more smarter from our side, I would say. Felix, anything to add on top of that?
As you said, you already mentioned a lot. Just wanted to add, I think, one thing, ad mediation, from my point of view, something where you see some development on the market, new players coming in, also a lot of players build their own systems. So something I think will also be interesting to monitor in the next year, what will happen in this direction. And in general, CPM development, because the last 2 years, 1.5 years, a lot impacts from outside, unexpected or expected, but also interesting to see the development next year.
Okay, interesting. And Orly, anything to add on the macro perspective?
Sure. So Nate, I really love your idea of native ads, and I really hope we'll get to this future. Actually, a big fan of it, but I know that it's really hard for companies to do it, both from the publisher side, from the mediation side, and even from the advertiser side. But I do really hope that we get to this future. Um, what we are expecting to see is more cross-platform playing. So playing on your mobile device, then cloud games or instant games, and perhaps even playing on that game in VR, in Oculus, being able to then download or get a reward of some kind of token, utilizing NFT perhaps, um, advertisers that will utilize NFTs inside the different games. So I'm really excited about that. And perhaps maybe not next year, but in the next coming years, for sure, this will arrive.
Yeah, sounds exciting. And now let's go to the last question. What advice do you have for gaming publishers and developers that are thinking about how to monetize their game? Let's start with Roie this time.
So if I need to summarize, and it will be a bit same as I mentioned regarding our business model. So I will try to make it short. In the last 10 years, I worked in few monetization positions in several of mobile companies and experienced all types of strategies. And one thing I've learned during my time in JoyTunes is that when we are talking on monetization and subscription specifically, it clearly does not fit all apps strategies. It's very tempting to use this model. You can clearly build a long-term growth and financial strategy, but I saw too many apps and games which try to force the model on their product and failed. The subscription business model is purely dependent on strong and lasting customer relationship. And if the user, is not happy or not reminded of the value your service provide them on a regular basis, at the end, they will churn. So if I need to conclude, my main tip here is that before deciding on monetization strategy and considering subscription as one of the options, I would really advise every developer or even game publisher to ask himself if his product really fits this model and if the team is ready to have this great effort required.
Okay, definitely agreed. And I would add that you have to collect as many data points. This is my recommendation. And once you have enough data, you can receive data-oriented decisions. Don't be afraid for monetization. That's another tip. The users are accustomed to it. They even ask for it. We had some games that the users were begging, give us more video ads. For me, it's like, how can it be? But it happens. So don't be afraid. Let's go for Orly. Orly, would you like to add something?
Sure. My biggest tip is be user experience focused, okay? Like, don't just bash users with plenty of ads. Don't just think short term of how you achieve 100% ROAS within the first 7 days. Think about long sessions, long user experience, what users like, what do they want, utilize data as Roie mentioned. Move to bidding, because this will free a lot of time from your hands doing mundane work to actually focusing on strategy, building better games. And I think the average gamers are so much more sophisticated today, especially on mobile, that, treat them well.
Yes, totally agreed. Don't be afraid, people. Nate, anything to add? To summarize?
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea for developers to find a North Star that they can follow. Our North Star in our case are basically 3 KPIs that we make sure we're optimizing, and it's a good way to make decisions without letting kind of like emotions get in the way of it. So basically for us, that is what is our star rating? What is our revenue, and what is our retention? So you can mix those and compute LTV, but basically we want to make sure that anytime we're doing something, if we're adding new ads, increasing revenue, not hurting star rating. If we're adding new features that could impact that, it also has the same role. And that basically allows us to create a commonly understood KPI that we can use to undergird our main goal of being the #1 player-driven idle game company in the world. It allows us to basically, have something that can support that without it just being, our pie in the sky dream.
Okay, great summary. And last but not least, Felix, wrap it up for us.
Yeah, no, I only want to add two things because I already said, I think, very, very good advices and tips already. It's the one thing is, I think what you said, you need a case, do a case to the data, benchmark the data. And I think this is where you should start from, starting point for every new test. And the other thing also, like you said, don't be afraid. And I think at this moment, which is good because it was evolving over the last years, there are a lot of out-of-the-box solutions already. So you don't have to invent it completely new. I think you can start very easily right now with ads in your games from a starting point and evolve from that. So it's, I think also the border is much lower compared to 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, totally agreed. To sum it up, I think we had a very fruitful session here, very interesting insights, ideas. I think we have a bunch of pros here that gave a lot of tips if you wrote them down. And do we have some time for Q&A?
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Unfortunately, we're totally wrapped up, but of course, I can't release you without asking at least one question. I'm just gonna ask you to answer it quickly. Probably it's to you, Roie. I didn't hear it, I'm not sure, but tomorrow we will have a whole panel discussing if NFT is the future of in-game purchases. So yeah, I know. So I was gonna ask if you're looking into that as well.
The question is for the panel.
No, the question is for you. Are you looking at NFT as the also future of in-game purchases? Yeah.
I'm going to be blunt, sorry, but that's how I'm usually at. I think not. I think it's very hype and not sure it's what people think about it, but that's just my personal and not Ilyon's perspective.
All right. Yeah, well, different opinions. Sure. I'm not even
Sorry
sure.
To disappoint. Sorry to disappoint.
No, I'm not sure. I'm even myself, I'm not sure what I would choose. But anyway, yeah, thanks a lot to all of you guys. Thank you very much for this session. There were many interesting thoughts, as Roie also mentioned, for all of you. Thanks again. Please feel free, for the audience, please feel free to reach out to the guys in case you have any questions. And happy upcoming holidays. I'm gonna say goodbye to you all now. Take care. See you in 2022.